Hi everyone, so welcome to another edition of Pele Yoetz. We are on the topic of emunah, and emunah is it's one of those things that one day can be a victory and one day could be a loss. But today's victory does not guarantee tomorrow's, and neither does today's loss guarantee a loss tomorrow. Every day is different. Every nesayon comes with its challenges. And sometimes I like to say that sometimes when these things come, and it always after the fact, isn't it always after the fact when you get nesayon in emunah, you realized after the fact that was the nesayon. And so at that point, sometimes we know we've done really good. And sometimes I feel like, at least for myself, like I realized it was an nesayon when I did really bad, right? But what I say is that, again, these are like no different than the tests we took when we were in school. And some of them are like a baseline, what we call like a baseline test. The baseline test is basically comes to tell you what is, where are you holding? And then so from that point, when that situation, if has v'shalom you fail, the situation will come again. And when it comes again, once you've gone through it, you can compare it and you can see where you've grown and kind of where you're still needing some improvement. So emunah is something really you have to do day by day, and it's a little bit different from bitachon. And I always say that emunah is like HaKadosh Baruch Hu asking you if there was a tight wire and a wheelbarrow. If he asked you, do you think I can get across safely? And then we would say, of course, you're Hashem, of course you can do it. And I always say that bitachon is when he says, okay, now get in the wheelbarrow. So, it's a journey. It's one of those things, I think, emunah is very, I think a lot of people like to talk about emunah. But the truth is that even for as many classes that we can go to and learn about this, and there's endless classes about this, it's not until you're actually in the wheelbarrow that you feel the enormity of your situation. But we're going to begin. It says, faith is the cornerstone of Judaism. One who believes in God, whose glory fills the whole world, whose eyes gaze upon all the ways of men, to give each one according to his ways and the fruit of his actions, will be a righteous man who lives by faith. He will certainly be meticulous in the performance of all his mitzvot and the details of his mitzvah. He will be diligent in doing the mitzvah, maintaining a state of purity from all sin, and will gird himself with strength as lying in the service of the Creator. He will not be intimidated by any person because with his eyes he sees and his heart understands that the name of God is called upon him. So this is something I think that many of us struggle, especially in this day and age. Especially, I speak with a lot of ladies, especially the ones that are trying to elevate in the area of covering their hair with a tichel. And oftentimes I find that, unfortunately, there's, I think probably they call and they say that they have a hard time, people mocking them. And sometimes there's a little intimidation. But I'm going to tell you that Rav Papo, Alav Shalom, is going to talk about people who mock you later on in this sefer, and it's quite interesting, and it literally makes the hair stand up on your arm, because I don't think we ever realize the enormity of some of our actions sometimes, and but I'm telling you, hold on to your tichels and your sheitels. It's going to get really, really interesting, I assure you. So he knows that God inspects the entire earth, and there's an eye that sees and an ear that hears, and all of one's deeds are recorded in a book. So this is a very well-known and famous saying. And it's a really scary one, because indeed, when we end up going before the Beis Din in Shemaim, not only is there a record, but we also ourselves, every night we go up and we give a heshbon, and we're the ones that are testifying against ourselves. Very, 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 very. I don't know, I guess you could say scary. It's a very sobering thought. So it says, one should be embarrassed before him and serve him with total servitude, with fear, love, and great joy. A person must believe with complete faith that there is a reward for the righteous in concurrence with abundance of their actions, and according to one's pain will be one's recompense. So this is the same thought. We were just talking about the ladies that get mocked sometimes when they're trying to elevate their mitzvot into a tichel. And what I like to say is that, even though we have learned sniut from our foremothers, I'm under the very strong belief that our reward in this day and age is much greater, simply because in their time, sniut was not an issue, and modesty was really practiced among everyone, and everyone kind of just knew the rules. There was no explanation about why you didn't take somebody's hand, or the funny looks with a tichel on. So a lot of women, unfortunately, there's not that much support for women who want to observe in sniut. So, and they go through a lot of pain and anguish, but fear not, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to reward you. You're going to be very happy, very soon. By the way, you're going to be so happy that you had this zechus to be in this time, to get a chance to rise to the occasion, like the women of Am Yisrael always do. They always rise to the occasion. That's the beauty of them. But it continues on. It says, likewise, there is a harsh and bitter punishment for the wicked for every wrong act. The balancing scale of justice is in the hand of Hashem, to give each man according to his deeds, status, and understanding and ability. Based on his effort, happiness in the performance of the mitzvah will be his recompense. Measure for measure. I got to tell you, that right there, Hashem knows the heart and the intention of every person. And, if you're going to do a mitzvah, do it. Just like they say in Nike, just do it. Do it because, you don't want to have to already have done the mitzvah, and then because there was no kavana in it, that you're going to end up, it's like you did it, but you didn't really get the full credit for it. So really, if you're going to do it, go all the way. Just do it. It says, there's another aspect of faith from which many good virtues emanate, and this is to believe in God's providence in this lower domain over every minute, every minute detail. No man bumps his finger in the lower realm unless there has been a decree in the upper realm. Hulin 7b. This is certainly true for me today. It seems like everything has been a little testy today, for sure. And I feel like it's a Kadosh Baruch Hu's way of testing for me to see my baseline, to see how I have either grown or where I'm still lacking, especially in the area of being patient with other people. So even, I'm just reading the Sefer. I'm a student along with all of you. So just know that I also have my Yetzirah as well. So it says, from the mouth of the supernal one come forth good and evil, whether those that had come from Shemaim or those by the hands of men. God has many messengers, whether for good or bad. This is so true. And let me tell you something. We always have to be careful, especially when thinking about that measure for measure. We always have to be careful about this. If you're struggling in an issue, some people I know, sometimes we hear, and I'm sure everybody knows somebody like this, where, let's say, I'm just going to give an example because I see this a lot. A lot of times you have examples where people are looking for shidduchim for their children, and they're having a difficult time finding it, and the children are going on year by year by year, and they're having a difficult time. But yet they'll turn around to slander the women of Am Yisrael, either by saying they're because of their lack of modesty or whatever it is. And I have to warn you, whenever you're making an accusation about anyone in Am Yisrael, oh, Habibi, it's not even worth your time to even do such a thing, especially if you have children yourself. Don't make an accusation against one of Hashem's children, or he will come back to make an accusation on yours. Lo aleinu, like Chas v'Shalom, that should be the case. You have to be very careful what you're saying, especially about Am Yisrael. So it says, He is the one who gives strength so that it's possible to achieve goals. Devarim 8:18. Wise men do not necessarily have bread, and the fast ones do not necessarily win the race. Kohelet 9:11. As such, one should not worry about any loss of money when it comes to the service of his master and the performance of his will. This is also true. I got to tell you, my husband, when we had spoke to the Rav, shortly after his conversion, he had wanted to purchase a pair of tefillin. We went and told the Rav, the best that you can get from Eretz Israel, the best. That's what we want. $1,000, boom. And we did it. We gave it. Exactly 1 year later, my husband's car broke down, and they called us and they said, "Oh, it's going to be covered." They saved you $1,000. So measure for measure, it does work out. And we've seen a lot of examples for this. There's a lot of, you'll find that when you're using your money for Torah and mitzvot, you'll find there's a lot of bracha on the money that you make, especially, it comes like you go to the store and everything's on sale. I mean, it just comes in little things like that, but it's very amazing to see. It's like a miracle every day. And it says, one must not attempt to achieve wealth by any means that involves a prohibition. Rather, a person should balance his matter with justice, properly and fitting and according with the Torah. He must not dominate, flatter, hate his brother, take revenge, or bear a grudge. He needs to know and believe that Hashem told a person to curse him, and everything is from him, to lessen his wickedness for his own betterment. So, Harav is coming to tell us that, if you lose money, if somebody comes to give you a hard time, that's a Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's coming from him. Remember, we spoke about this before, about who is the executioner, and he's only executing on the decree that the king has made. So again, as I just said, just a few sentences before, Hashem has many messengers, and he sends them. So it's really not worth your time to get listen, I went through a hard time today and towards the tail end yesterday. And I got to tell you that even though I'm telling you this, I myself am I'm a student of my own lecture today. It's easier said than done. Sometimes when you're in the thick of it, it's very hard to remember that this is coming from Hashem, all for your good. So God is faithful. He has no crookedness, and he is righteous and upright. Devarim 32:4. It says, God is righteous in all his ways, compassionate in all his deeds. Tehillim 145:17. Everything that God does is for good. Berachot 60b. Because all of these things, a person should accept the judgment Shemayim with joy and not despise his rebuke. I got to tell you that believe it or not, the study of Musar has really allowed me to be smarter. I think is going to be the best word I can come up for I think it's taught me how to be smarter about my reactions to things, because I'm starting to understand what the reaction is how it's going to start affecting in Shemaim, and what the outcome could be. So it's funny, sometimes Musar is a little hard to take, because it involves us actually changing our midot. But I got to tell you, I feel like I'm kind of smarter as far as, don't get me wrong, like, put it in context. I'm, smarter than myself before. So it's for sure, I'm not saying, look at me, I'm so great. But I feel a little bit wiser, about the way I'm reacting to things now, as opposed to when even a few months ago. It's like crazy how just a little musar really will change. It will change you. It'll help you so much. So it says, the root of everything in this matter is to believe in all the words of the Torah and in all the words of the sages. In one's mind cannot comprehend them. He must attribute it to the lack of his knowledge and a limited understanding. This is also true. I've found that things that I struggled with about what the sages have come to tell me in the past, I find that if with a little patience, Hashem does come back and he allows for you to understand it a little bit more. And I got to tell you that the more that happens, I find that now, even things that I would struggle with, I tend to accept them, because there's almost this trust that's kind of built up between myself and the sages, and anyone who studies the works of the sages, because you realize that there is so much, chachma in all the things they're telling you. So when you have that kind of trust already, you really, sometimes they'll tell you something, it sounds really wild, but if you just hold tight, first of all, once you have that established trust, you hold tight, and you allow, for Hashem to come in, and he does, like, he comes in, and it's like, every day is a learning experience, and it always happens to do with the things that you're studying about. So when you're building that trust, for sure, easier for you to accept what they're saying. So it says, no matter what, he must believe that all of their words are vibrant, permanent, and faithful forever. Come and see how great are the words of the sages, who said that their entire Torah is included and concealed in the quality of faith. Many people profess with their mouths that they are believers, the sons of believers. By their actions, they are disloyal. The actions removes any doubt about the validity of their voice, and God will bring a person to judgment for everything. So this is another thing. Sometimes, I think sometimes people, they like to shout about how much of a righteous person they are. But sometimes their actions, it's like, you really ask yourself, are we reading the same Torah? There's no way you can read the Torah. There's no way you can make a study Torah and not come out changed. It's impossible. I mean, unless it's like, again, I'll go back to that workout DVD example I gave, like in the beginning of this series, where I said, when you're just buying the DVD, the workout DVD, and just, even if you're just watching it and not applying it, you're not actually doing the workout, you can't expect that you're going to change at all. And it's the same thing here. You can spout out a lot of things, but if like the famous saying, if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. And sometimes we find that, we see this where people are falling short. And even myself, I have to hold myself to the same standard. My Rav always says that you can't ask someone else to do something you yourself you can't do. You can't put someone, hold them to the level of tzaddik, and for you it's like, oh, what can I do? I'm not there yet, I'm not ready. We can't do this. We have to know that everybody's in their place. Let's never judge anyone, but let's also be careful to not put ourselves in such a high place that we think we're above reproach. So it says, a person who has gone into the darkness will not only be punished for his bad deed, but he will also be sorely punished for his being a man void of faith. If he did believe, and even so did not go on the correct path, this is shamelessness and the behavior of a treacherous woman. Behold, these mitzvahs of believing in the existence of God and his providence are counted among the Teryag 613 mitzvot. They are constant mitzvot which a person is capable of fulfilling at any time by just remembering them. As such, it is good for a man to mention them verbally, not to forget them in his heart. From time to time, the Jewish servant should say, that's like Sally got seashells by the seashore. That was a tongue twister for me. So as the Yetzirah, what are you doing? Must you always pursue me? Let God rebuke you, O Satan, for I am a Jew, the son of a Jew, who believes with complete faith in the existence of Hashem before me at all times, and his specific divine providence over the minutest details. He pays a goodly reward for every good thing, whether in thought, speech, or action, and an awful and bitter punishment for every bad thing, even for seemingly insignificant chatter and evil thoughts. Therefore, it is proper for me to do such and such, to behave in a certain way or fashion, and to withdraw my hand, be cautious and vigilant in this matter, to the point that my thought, speech, and action will be pure and upright. There will be no corruption or crookedness in them, in order that my faith will not be deceiving. This is what I will do, and I will not change. These and similar things a living person must take to heart. He should continuously think about them and delve deeply into their length and breadth, so as to walk in the ways of faith, that his hands be faithful, his actions demonstrate his faith, and it will benefit him to merit a proper peace in the Olam Haba. The primary goal is to provide satisfaction for the one who dwells on high. So there it is. That's what it is in a nutshell. We're really here, to draw close to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. And it's a very personal journey for everyone. emunah is really, I think in this generation, it's the greatest nesayon that we have individually and also as a nation. And I think more so, it's the ironic thing is that unlike our ancestors, who had people who were kind of persecuting them physically, for the most part, I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but for the most part, at least here in America especially, we're kind of safe from all that. So it's very, I think it becomes harder to understand, except for that you realize that it is a spiritual battle. And it is one of those things where sometimes it becomes an emunah thing. I think that the Yetzer Hara has really got a hold on our minds, has v'shalom, and it becomes harder for us. It's this inner dialogue that we're having all the time, and he does all kinds of trickery, making us busy, getting us tired. I mean, whatever it is, sending a bad word through somebody's mouth. Has v'shalom, don't be the agent of such speech. And really, just know that Hashem is with you in everything, and everything is just an illusion. It's just an illusion. Everything is here designed to test us, to see how we're going to react and how we're going to do, if we're going to rise to the challenge. But again, the words I just said, it is easier said than done. I'm telling you from experience, and I know everybody knows and will accept this wholeheartedly. It's always easier said than done. But it's one of those things. It's like if you blink and you close your eyes and you concentrate and you realize it's all sheker. This is all, it's an illusion, and it's only here to test you. But like I said in the beginning, the emunah is something you have to practice every day. If you have has v'shalom, felt that you failed the nesayon, be glad of heart and know that tomorrow's a new day. And just because you didn't make the grade today doesn't mean that you won't make the grade tomorrow. But also be vigilant, because just because you made the grade today doesn't mean you'll make the grade tomorrow. You may not make the cut. So we always have to be on guard and vigilant. We always have to be hopeful and with simcha and joy, knowing that Hashem is with us in everything. And sometimes even in our failure, it's meant for us to fail. And we cannot properly appreciate victory unless we've known what failure is. So that really, that's what it is in a nutshell. So that's it for today. And I hope we'll all be together again soon. B'ezrat Hashem.